Welcome to The Numbers Game, the show where analytics meets the action and data drives the decisions. I'm Cynthia Frelund, and it is time for each conference to crown a champion this weekend, which means it's time for us to dive deep into the stats that define this week's matchups between the Commanders and Eagles and Bills and Chiefs to determine who will advance to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Together, we'll uncover the numbers that make the difference because it's not just about what happens, it's about why it happens and how the data helps tell the story. I can already tell you this is going to be a beefy episode, so I'm going to get right into it. But as always, thank you for spending some of your time and energy here with me. Before we move forward, let's recap the divisional round where my model went 3 wins and 1 loss straight up, 2, 1, and a push against the spread, and 3 and 1 on totals, which means for the 2024 playoffs, I'm tracking at 70% straight up, 65% ATS, and 60% on totals. Add that into the regular season, and for all 282 games so far, I'm 70.9% straight up, 53.7 ATS, and 50.2 on totals. The Commanders head to Philadelphia for their third matchup with the Eagles this season. The season series is tied at 1 apiece, and the winner not only breaks the tie, but heads to New Orleans. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are 6-point favorites over Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. The total is 47.5 points. 3 quick history lessons before we get into it. Remember, these aren't necessarily predictive, but great info to pull out at a party. Number 1, rookie quarterbacks are 0-5, as in none, with 4 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions in conference championship games all time. Number 2, number 6 seeds are 2-6 in conference championships all time. The only teams to win were the 2010 Packers and the 2005 Steelers. Number 3, both current teams are in the top 3 in rushing offenses for the season, making this the first conference championship matchup between 2 teams this highly ranked in the run game since the 1997 AFC Championship game, which was Denver at Pittsburgh. Given that, let's start with a note on each team's run game. The Commanders' running backs gained positive EPA on 46% of their designed rushes this season. That's the second highest rate in the league. Jaden Daniels had 58 such carries. That's the second most at the position. Of these 58 designed carries, he earned the 6th highest success rate and scored 5 touchdowns, which was the most. He also scrambled to run on 13% of dropbacks, also the highest rate, and earned 600 yards, which was the second most by any quarterback since 2016. By the way, he scrambled 41 times on 3rd and 4th down combined. That was tied for the second most by volume. However, the resulting 22 first downs off of them were the most. Saquon Barkley is beyond more than likely to be your AP Offensive Player of the Year. He also has the 6th highest explosive run rate among running backs, and he's averaged 2.4 yards before contact per carry. That's the second most at the position. Thank you, offensive line. And across the 2 playoff games that he's played in, he has 5 explosive runs, including 2 that resulted in touchdowns against the Rams last week. One was 62 yards and the other one 78. Washington has allowed the second highest explosive run rate and the most yards before contact to opposing backs this season. And for good measure, and because this number is ridiculous, in their 2 regular season matchups, the Commanders allowed 197 total yards and an average of 3.6 yards before contact per carry to Saquon Barkley, along with 6 explosive runs. As for the quarterbacks, Washington's rookie has a 110 passer rating in 10 road games this full season. That's the best by a first-year player in NFL history. He also has 300-plus offensive yards and 0 giveaways in both playoff games, making him the first rookie to have 2 such games all time. Daniels also has the second highest completion percentage at 68%, second most yards per attempt at 8.7 on passes outside the numbers. He also has the 5th best completion percentage, it's 52%, for any rookie since 2018 on passes targeting vertical routes. He has 12 touchdowns off of them, including 4 against the Eagles in their Week 16 matchup. Daniels has only been sacked once in the postseason so far. Philadelphia's signal caller targeted vertical routes on just 4 of 41 passes across 2 playoff games this season. That's a sub 10% rate. That's even lower than his 16% rate during the regular season, which ranked 10th lowest. Of course, weather is a factor, but he had 11 touchdowns off such passes in the regular season, so it matters. Jalen Hurts was sacked 7 times last week against the Rams, with each offensive lineman allowing at least 4 pressures and a sack. Each. My whiteout note for Washington is that Terry McLaurin has the third most yards, 350, and is tied for the most touchdowns with 6 across just 11 receptions when targeted on go routes this season. In their 2 previous games in weeks 11 and 16, McLaurin was targeted on just 1 of 20 go routes. It did, though, result in a 32-yard touchdown. In the second matchup with Philly, Scary Terry moved around the formation more and wasn't lined up with Quinyon Mitchell as much. He only saw him on 3 targets. However, a touchdown came on one of those targets. And by the way, Quinyon Mitchell was banged up last week. For Philadelphia, A.J. Brown saw a lot of Marshawn Lattimore before the corner left due to injury in the fourth quarter. He actually saw him on 23 of his first 25 routes, that's 92% to be exact, and 12 of them came in press coverage, 48%. Brown caught 5 of 10 for 68 yards, 50%, and a touchdown against Lattimore. And by the way, he also drew 3 pass interference calls, which doubled his total yardage to 136 yards if you factor that in. Commanders veteran tight end Zach Ertz has been the intended target on a team-high 25 passes off of 87 routes run inside the red zone. That 29% target rate is the highest among Commanders receivers. He caught 16 of them for 104 yards and 8 touchdowns. And by the way, 7 of those 8 touchdowns have come against man coverage. Dallas Goedert has been the answer on third down for the Eagles. He caught 11 of 12 targets for 216 yards and 7 first downs, adding a league-high plus 104% probability added. His 6.6 yards after the catch per reception, that is third most at the position, and in the playoffs so far, he's upped the ante to 8.9 yak per reception. On to the defense. During the regular season, the Commanders blitzed at the 8th highest rate, 34%. In Week 11, they increased that to 38%. And in Week 16, they upped it to 54% before Hurts left due to injury. Over both games, they gave Hurts man defense on about 40% of snaps, which is about 10 percentage points higher than his season average. While it's likely they'll keep the blitz rate high, maybe we see a little less man, as Hurts has the most yards per attempt at 9.6 for any quarterback since 2021, along with 12 touchdowns with just 1 interception against man coverage. In Week 11, the Eagles blitzed Jaden Daniels on 5 of his 11 dropbacks. In Week 16, they did it at a 36% rate. Philadelphia pressured Daniels on over half of their blitzes, but only 1 has resulted in a sack. Daniels completed 11 of 17, 193, and 3 touchdowns when the Eagles rushed an extra defender. Remember, blitzing, pressures, not always the same thing. Vic Fangio's strategy note here will be interesting because on non-blitzing downs, they've only been able to pressure Daniels on 20% of dropbacks. Listen to this note. In Week 16, he completed 6 of 13 under pressure for 162, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and he also scrambled for 39 yards. But when he wasn't under pressure, he averaged only 3.7 yards per pass attempt. What am I getting at? Well, with right tackle Trent Scott stepping in for Sam Cosmi, I would guess the balance of blitz and pressure with back-end coverage reflects trying to exploit that potential vulnerability. 2 defensive player nuggets you need to know for each team start with the Commanders' Mike Stainristil, who's allowed just 7.1 yards per target as the nearest defender in coverage since Week 14. That was Washington's bye. And by the way, this is over 1 full yard fewer than his Week 1 through 13 average, which was 8.4. He also has 7 passes defensed and 3 picks since Week 14. And up front, Frankie Louvu has 29 pressures this season, with 8 of them resulting in a sack. That's a 31% pressure to sack conversion, the second highest in the league. In Week 11, he had 3 pressures, with 2 of them turning into sacks. And in Week 16, he added 2 more pressures. On the other side of the ball, let's check out Nakobe Dean's injury replacement, Oren Burks. He's been targeted 4 times and allowed 2 receptions for 10 yards while breaking up 1 pass. He's also recorded 5 run tackles, including 1 run stuff on 31 run defense snaps for the Birds. Rookie cornerback Quinyon Mitchell left the divisional round game early with an injury, so let's look at his replacement as well, Isaiah Rodgers. Rodgers was targeted 10 times and allowed 5 receptions for 106 yards, but also had 2 passes defensed. In the regular season, he played 169 coverage snaps, allowed 10 receptions on 22 targets and 98 yards for 2 touchdowns. His 46% completion percentage allowed as the nearest defender in coverage was the team's lowest by percentage. To be fair, let's do a standout stat here too, since both of those prior notes are kind of next man up notes. Nolan Smith. He set and then matched career highs in single game pressures with 5 in each of his past 2 games. Those 10 pressures are the third most for any player this postseason and the most among any defender left in the tournament. He has 20 total pressures over his past 5 games after having only 20 total pressures over his first 31 career games. Bottom line in this one, I have Philadelphia by 4 points, 27-23. The Eagles' short passes tip the scales. Hurts has attempted a career high 49% of passes for sub 10 air yards this season. That's the 10th highest rate in the league. He averages 7.6 yards per, which is second most, and has a 48% success rate on them, along with Eagles pass catchers adding an average of 4.8 yak per reception, which is the fourth most. As far as the Commanders' defenses come this season, they still don't have a reliable solution against the short pass. They've allowed 4.9 yards after the catch per reception, which is third most, and they've allowed the second highest rate of explosive plays and the second most EPA per short pass. I told you these are hefty breakdowns this week because these games deserve it, but let's do a quick list. How about 5 notes on big names covered in these game breakdowns in the form of a checklist so you can mark them off as the games go on. It's kind of like bingo, if you will. Number 1, Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown. Duh. Number 2, Dallas Goedert to have more than 36.5 receiving yards. Number 3, Terry McLaurin to score a touchdown. Okay, it's safer to say more than 64.5 receiving yards, but touchdowns are more fun. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes to pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns, 1 going to Travis Kelce, so that's kind of 5. But then real 5 is Josh Allen to score a rushing touchdown. Which brings us to the second to last game of the whole season, the final one before Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, the AFC Championship game where the Buffalo Bills head to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the 7th straight AFC Championship game for Kansas City, who are 2-point favorites, and the total is 47.5 points. As for your history lessons here, we have 3 yet again. First, the Chiefs have 4 wins by fewer than 3 points this season. 3 of them have come in their last 10 games. Only the 1989 Packers had more such wins in a season. Second, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are meeting in the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 seasons. The only starting quarterbacks to meet more times in the playoffs since 1950, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and they've done it 5 times. Mahomes is currently 3-0 in playoffs against Allen, but overall, the quarterbacks have combined for 18 offensive touchdowns in 3 playoff matchups. Each quarterback has 9. That's the most in any quarterback matchup in playoff history. They've also combined for the second most offensive yards and third most team points. And the third history note is about turnovers. The Bills have 8 giveaways in 2024, with none in the playoffs. That's the fewest by any team in a season, including the playoffs, since at least 1950. Kansas City has gone 8 straight games with 0 giveaways. That is the longest streak by any team in the same period of time, since 1950, including the playoffs. There is no better place to start in this matchup than with the quarterbacks. We've talked a lot about great Josh Allen stats this season, but let's add one more to the list, and that is that Allen has not thrown an interception against split safety coverages this season. He is the only quarterback that can say that. His 3% sack rate against such shells was also the 4th lowest in the league, and the Chiefs use split safety coverages at the 4th highest rate, over 52% of the time. And when they blitz, they use those shells at over double the NFL average. NFL average is 17%, and they do it 39% of the time. And of course, this is relevant because the Chiefs blitz at the 5th highest rate. Josh Allen rushing more in the playoffs is a thing, and so is him scrambling more against the Chiefs specifically. Let's start with the playoff note first. This season, Allen took only 22 designed rushing attempts in the regular season. That is a career low. He did score 3 touchdowns on them, but still. In the playoffs this season, he already has 8 designed runs with another touchdown in 2 games. As an average, he takes 2.1 designed runs per game in the regular season and 3.8 in the playoffs. Since 2019, he has a 70% success rate on designed runs in the playoffs. That is the highest by any quarterback who's taken at least 10 such attempts, and it's also 18 percentage points higher than his regular season rate of 52. As for scrambling against the Chiefs, his average is over 10% against Kansas City versus 7% against everyone else since 2020, and that includes the playoffs. Third down has been where the bulk of these are happening too. He scrambled on 19% of such attempts versus the Chiefs, compared to 9% against everybody else. In his first 5 matchups against KC, he converted 62 of those into first downs. In the last 3 games, though, that number has gone to just 3 conversions on 15 third down scrambles. Patrick Mahomes completed 84% of his quick passes this season, the highest rate in the NFL. His success rate on them was 60%, also the highest rate, and he ranked second in EPA per quick pass. All of this, even though he used them at the highest rate of his career, over 44% of the time. Usually when you use it more, the efficiency goes down. Buffalo allowed a 52% success rate and 5.9 yards after contact per reception to them this season. Both metrics ranked 10th highest. They also allowed the 4th highest completion percentage to them at 78%. Last time they played, play action was the plan. Mahomes used it on over 34% of dropbacks in Week 11. That's his highest rate in 8 career matchups against Buffalo and the second highest rate on the season. In that game, he was 8 of 12 for 91 yards and a touchdown using play action. That's the second most yards that the Bills have given up to play action this season. The Chiefs also only used 11 personnel on 17 plays in that game. That ended up being their second lowest rate in a game since Mahomes took over as the starter in 2018. This is a trend that is also a thing in Chiefs versus Bills chess, as in Kansas City typically uses multiple tight ends to leverage size advantages to the tune of 59% of their offensive plays. The Bills, they basically don't play base defense, something like 5% of the time this season, but they haven't played a single snap of it in the past 5 matchups against the Chiefs, so you see why the Chiefs' offense matches them with so many tight ends. The last time around, the Bills' right tackle Spencer Brown was injured, but he's back for this one, and Brown has allowed a sub 5% pressure rate, the best mark at the position. The Bills have allowed the 12th lowest pressure rate overall, it's 31%, and a league low 14 sacks, the fewest since the Steelers had that very same number in 2020. This has led to a big advantage for the Bills as it helps Allen be at his best and minimizes turnovers. The Chiefs are about league average in both pressure rate at 34% and 20%, that's their sack rate on pressure downs. Allen is the only player with a lower than 10% sack rate on pressured dropbacks this season, and he's been sacked on fewer than 12% of pressured dropbacks since 2020, also the lowest rate in the NFL. He has the second highest EPA per pressure dropback this season. We've been talking about the Chiefs' O-line for a while now. Everybody has. So here are the actual numbers that correspond to what happens when their primary left guard, Joe Thuney, slides out to left tackle since week 15. Overall, he's allowed an 11% pressure rate. He did allow 0 pressures against the Steelers in week 17, but he's allowed at least 5 pressures per game in every other matchup. With Thuney at left tackle, Mike Caliendo steps in at left guard, and he has allowed a pressure rate of 12%, including a team-high 7 pressures against the Texans in the divisional round, with 3 different Texans generating at least 2 pressures against him. Let's do one skill player note for each offense quickly. Khalil Shakir led the Bills with 6 receptions and 67 receiving yards in the divisional round versus Baltimore, and all of his production came against zone coverage. He also had a career-high 12 targets in Week 11 against Kansas City, of course, where he caught 8 of 70, with 7 of those 8 on underneath routes, so flats, screens, and slants, with 56 of the 70 yards coming after the catch. Shakir has accounted for 1/3 of the Bills' receptions in the playoffs. That's the highest share by any player since Travis Kelce in 2022. His was 35%. Speaking of Travis Kelce, in the first 7 matchups against the Bills with Mahomes at quarterback, he hauled in 51 passes for 602 yards and 8 touchdowns on 67 targets. It is a 9.0 yard per target average. In Week 11, he caught just 2 of 4 for 8 yards. The trend has kind of gone like this. Kelce versus a Buffalo defensive back, 7.4 yards per target. Kelce against a linebacker, 11.2 yards per target. That's the 8-game total. Which leads us to our defense notes. As of right now, Bills corner Christian Benford is still in the concussion protocol, and safety Taylor Rapp has not practiced. Matt Milano was also limited, but that one feels a little bit more like rest. The Bills are coming off of a game against the Ravens where they had a 42% pressure rate off of 11 different players generating at least 1 pressure. That's their 4th time this season having 11 players generate at least 1 pressure. That's crazy. Matt Milano himself had 4, and AJ Epinesa, who's a defensive end, added 5 run stops, which is a big help off the edge against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. The Chiefs' defense is healthier, and they're coming off of a game with 8 sacks against the Texans. That's their most this season and their third highest pressure rate at 51%. George Karlaftis, who's created 4 more pressures in each of his last 5 games, and by the way, finished the divisional round with a team and career high 8 pressures and 3 sacks, was excellent. Bottom line, I have the Chiefs by 1 point, 25-24. Injuries to the Bills' defense, a defense that already ranks 29th on third down, tips the scales in favor of the Chiefs here. Also, Spags' blitzing. So his strategy here is a big component as well. Someday, I will bore you with all of my thoughts on bluffing versus adjusting versus randomness and using all of that as a strategy to call plays in the NFL. But for now, just look at the past 2 games. In week 11, Spags blitzed Allen on 38% of dropbacks. He got a 47% pressure rate, and Allen had 1 touchdown and 1 pick. His passer rating was like 50% better when he wasn't blitzed, and his pressure rate was basically cut in half. Now contrast that to the 2023 divisional round game. The Chiefs blitzed Josh on just 18% of dropbacks. That's their lowest rate in 2 seasons. And the opposite thing happened, as in his yards per attempt were basically cut in half when he wasn't blitzed. So the chess of it all and the dynamics of it all could be impactful in this one. Which brings us to our conference championship menu. I'm going to, again, put together 2 3-course menus for you this week. However, we have a few changes. The first is that one menu will be for the NFC and the other will be for the AFC. And both menus will include 1 bland and 2 spicy components. You can, of course, reconfigure this however you want, but just remember the pattern is bland, spicy, spicy. And this week for bland, I went with 52%, and for spicy, I turned up the heat to 46%. But remember, there is enough volatility to make the juice worth the squeeze. Menu 1, our NFC menu. Ingredient number 1, Austin Eckler to have more than 24.5 receiving yards. He's averaged 2.2 yards per route this season, including the playoffs. That's the second most at the position. And he has 139 yak over expected, also including the postseason, and also the second most at the position. He missed the Week 16 matchup against the Eagles, but he was targeted on 53% of his routes in the first go-around, and he led the Commanders in that one with 8 receptions for 89 yards. Number 2, spicy ingredient number 1, Devontae Smith to have more than 48.5 receiving yards. This season, he caught 57 of 72 targets for 676 yards and 8 touchdowns when given at least 3 yards of cushion at the line of scrimmage. That is tied for the 4th most touchdowns when not facing press in the NFL. Ingredient number 3, the second spicy one, Zach Ertz to score a touchdown. I get it. That's a little ghost pepper. So if you need to back it off, either go with more than 3.5 receptions or more than 30.5 receiving yards. But I like the touchdown. You know why? I love the red zone share. And you know Cliff Kingsbury loves it. And you know who else loves it? Jaden Daniels. Menu number 2, the AFC. Ingredient number 1, our bland one, Keon Coleman to have more than 20.5 receiving yards. Coleman was pressed on 46% of his routes. That's the highest rate in the NFL this season. And he had the 7th most yards with the 4th most yards per target at 11.5 on them. So like 2 catches. The Chiefs pressed their outside corners at the 2nd highest rate this season and the 2nd highest rate since 2018. Like I said, he could do it in 2 catches. Number 2, spicy ingredient number 1, James Cook to catch more than 1.5 passes. We talked about the Josh Allen split of deep and short passes, and when Spags does bring the blitz, this could be a nice outlet for Josh Allen. Ingredient number 3, the second spicy one, and this one is hot. It's an Xavier-worthy touchdown. After averaging 11.3 air yards per target through the first 13 weeks of the regular season, his average depth of target has decreased to 4.5 air yards since week 14. And it's been working. He's been targeted 18 times behind the line of scrimmage. He has 16 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown on such passes. Now, the Bills' defense has allowed the 2nd most passing yards, 755, on throws behind the line of scrimmage in the regular season, which means to harness Xavier-Worthy's speed, perhaps it's best to let him catch and run. Don't miss a whole slew of fun things coming out this week and next. Of course, we've got some big things planned leading up to and for the Super Bowl. Oh, and my conference championship player projections, scores, and results, they're all posted as of January 22nd, so check them out. Thank you so much for hanging out. And if you like the show, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and pass it along so we can continue to grow. If you need a suggestion of who to share this with, I can tell you firsthand that Lions fans, we need a little bit of a pick me up. Enjoy the conference championship games.